Good morning, everyone, and I am so delighted to see you back here this week, and welcome to this week's vlog. Well, I cannot quite believe that we have been in Michigan for 3 weeks now, and I was just remarking to a girlfriend this morning that it feels like it's just been moments ago that the car pulled in here and we unloaded everything and just sort of re-moved in, and at the same time it feels like it's kind of been months and months, and both in a really beautiful way. I've truly been enjoying every single moment that we've been here since we've gotten here, and I know that I have remarked and spoken briefly about and put smatterings here and there about my intention for living slowly or slow living this summer. And I'm really starting to feel the effects and the benefits of it, and just how it is truly recharging my batteries and filling my cup. I've sort of been reconciling in my own mind about this whole notion of slow living, and I wish this is something I could wholly embrace year round, but when I think about it, it's truly just, it's not realistic. At least it's not for me. So if you have any tips on how I can embrace slow living throughout the entire year, I would greatly appreciate it. Of course, I tried to take some bits and pieces of what I'm learning to implement now and utilize it when I'm back in Orlando. And it's not to say that living in Orlando is stressful. Living in Orlando is extremely beautiful, and it's extremely rewarding for me. It's just when I am in Orlando in those months of the year, it is my busiest season, not just for work, but just overall. We have the holidays, my family is in town, all of that. My family are also snowbirds. My parents from New York come down to Florida, though I think they're going to be full-time Florida residents very soon. But anyway, I cannot believe how I have been sleeping so well here every single night, and that was such a big problem for me for the last couple of years. And I just feel like it's a combination of the fresh air, the physical activity, also the mental activity. I've been doing some reading, just a whole lot of things. I've been able to just quiet my mind a whole lot more. And it really has had me contemplating, because I've had sort of more of this time on my hands, on how slow living is helping me to heal from burnout. And I don't mean burnout like I was crashing and burning by the time we left. Certainly I was craving coming up to Michigan, not just to embrace the lifestyle, but the weather, undoubtedly. But it's just that my life and the months preceding our departure for Michigan are just so incredibly fast-paced that it just feels really good to sort of just kind of pump the brakes and nearly slam on the brakes to try to just slow down. So I thought I would speak a little bit about my trade-offs that I have implemented since I've gotten here to embrace slow living. Before I get started with all that, let me give you a recap of what's been happening this week. So we did have the opportunity to meet with a designer. It's sort of like an architect kind of designer. I'm still trying to figure out, it's a house designer. That's what he calls himself here. Anyway, he was lovely. We really connected with him. I tried to impart sort of my sensibility, my priorities with the new old house. By the way, for those of you who are just joining us here, I'm speaking about a house that we've just purchased here in Upper Michigan that was built in 1896 and in need of a massive renovation. And so we just met this past week with a contractor. So far we've met, I think, with 2 contractors and this designer. And so we first met with Marty, who was the designer, earlier this week, And again, I was imparting to him sort of my priorities and goals with the house, my intentions with the house. Of course, want to maintain its historic designation. It does have a historic designation plaque on the outside. That's very, very important to me that we maintain the integrity of that and keep the character of the home. Obviously, we need to modernize it in many, many ways to make it comfortable for us to live in, and of course, beautiful and aesthetic as well. Mr. Lyons also has very strong opinions on how he wants the house to look, and for the most part, we agree on all of those things. We've really started to take the bull by the horns there. He wrote out a huge punch list of everything that was important to us. He also offered wonderful suggestions, and of course his experience not only in his craft and what he does for a living, but his experience with these homes. He's done several homes actually on our street and the neighboring streets. Just really went a long way, and it actually made me just even think about what I do for a living, and it reminded me that sometimes with my clients, I used to feel like this before, a long time ago. I don't feel like this so much anymore, but I felt like when I would strongly recommend something or maybe strongly disagree with an opinion of not only maybe my client or a vendor, because I knew in my experience that there was a better way to approach and or design said situation, I used to hold back from that a little bit. But now actually having heard it on the flip side, being a client now and having Marty, this gentleman, sort of do the same thing, I wholly appreciated it. So if you are in a position, this is just a side note, if you are in a position in work of any kind, whether you are the boss, the owner, an associate, climbing up the ladder, if you have a strong opinion and you feel super strongly about it, suggest it, recommend it. I think the right person will hear the value in that. So I digress. But anyway, so that meeting was so great and very exciting, and it just sort of made us more optimistic for the whole project. Of course, also we just kept seeing like cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. We realized this is going to be a financial endeavor. And then after that, we met with another general contractor, and while we appreciated the meeting, and again, in business, this is part of it. He was the second contractor we had met with. And lovely gentleman. Just, I could tell right away. I could tell my husband wasn't feeling it. I wasn't either. So we agreed. We just sort of like, we don't need a proposal from this one. And I think we have reached out to two more. We are quickly learning that this project is not going to happen anytime soon. It's just obviously nothing can really happen in the winter here. The winters are rather harsh. I can't imagine how anyone could work outside in general here in the winter, and then obviously their calendars are full. So we don't know if there's a workaround or if we just have to be patient, but the difference between the pace of Orlando and Michigan is very different. Kind of goes hand in hand with the slow living. My mother-in-law is actually here this week visiting with us, and we've absolutely loved having her with us. And the two of us were walking together in a nursery. We love to visit nurseries and garden centers together, and just in general, and people in large. And she said, and she didn't mean this at all in a disparaging way. She said, people just aren't in a rush around here. And I was like, no, they're not. It's something I completely appreciate about over here. So we had a wonderful meeting as far as that goes with the house. We also, believe it or not, I have vetted and recruited someone just to help do a move-in clean for us and just do bi-weekly cleaning like we have at home. We've had a service here for the last couple of years and they were fine enough, but again, I just wasn't feeling a connection. It was sort of difficult for me where I was in the last couple of years to try to figure all of that out. I finally cracked the code. I found someone really wonderful. She'll be doing a massive clean, a move-in clean, I think they call it. I mean, it's soup to nuts. I mean, she's washing the walls, she's washing the ceilings, and even though it's all going to, for the most part, get torn down in the better part of a year, again, we're moving in a couple weeks. We need to be comfortable and we need to feel cozy. So she'll be coming in just about a week and a half or so and getting the place tip top. We have been slowly moving our things over to the house too, just bits and bobs. Mr. Lyon says every time, and we do stop in on the house and check in on the house every single day. And goodness knows my Amazon deliveries have been going there. So as Mr. Lyon says, I have a very intimate relationship with the Amazon and the UPS driver. But every time we go there, he makes us pick something up from this house and move it over there so we can just sort of feel like progress is being made. So that's really fun over there too. We also reached out to the handyman we have here, Jeremy, who also takes care of the yard. He's going to start to take care of the yard over at the new place. He has already really gotten down to work, and it's just sort of really exciting to see it, just things start to unfold. Sadly, the front yard, I think I mentioned in last week's video how I fully intend on offering at least curb appeal while we're here, and I still will definitely do what I can, but it just doesn't look like the front lawn is going to be viable at this point. For a few days, I thought maybe everyone had me convinced that the grass was dormant. We had not had rain here for a while. We've had rain. I did go ahead and soil test it and test it myself, and the grass is indeed dead. So to start to spray it with herbicide to take care of things and put nutrients back in it, take care of weeds, and they lay grass seed to have grass grow. I think we will be long gone after that. So that sort of broke my heart this week, but I'll work on other things. My goals this week is to get the bunting up, some hanging floral baskets up there, and just sort of make do with what we have there. But he has pulled a lot of weeds. He's done some edging, and you'd be surprised. Even edging with dead grass makes a really nice difference. At least it's manicured dead grass at this point. So we are all systems go there. So a couple of the things I've been doing, I know I mentioned also that I wanted to take up needlepoint, and last week I left off with you where I had blissfully checked myself into a hotel to hotel rut while my husband had some golf friends in town for the weekend. But I did take my first needlepoint class last week and did very much enjoy it. I didn't want to do anything until I knew I would be back, and I do feel like I will be back. I did love it. This was our practice sort of canvas there. So I learned this here is the continental stitch, and this is a basket weave. Now, I did purchase a canvas after my lesson, which is this. I love it, and it will ultimately be a pillow, so I think it will be nice to display either on a chair or maybe in the guest bedroom when everything is all said and done at the new house. But I will say the basket weave, I got the continental, and the basket weave sort of had me a little, it gave me pause, let's just say that. But I do thoroughly enjoy the process. Even the 2-hour lesson went by in a blitz. And of course, it's so lovely when you can sort of stitch together with some great conversation and some beautiful ladies, and that's exactly what it was. So part of my slow living is not just this. I intend to do this either while I'm listening to an audiobook, and I cannot wait to talk to you about what I am listening to now and reading. The needlepoint has been a great fun. Plus, The ladies have a group that meets every Monday from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And there's a hotel that just has an open room that they host us for free. And we could just all sit together and yap and stitch. And that just sounds so lovely. So I intend to take advantage of those meetups on Monday. And plus there's a sip and stitch coming up on July 2nd, which I'm going to, which has like glass of wine and some nice light bites, and then we get to stitch and chat with our friends there. So I did have every intention. I may wait until the next meeting before I start this one. I'll continue to practice on this one because I don't feel entirely confident with this basket stitch. So they did give us some YouTube needlepoint content creators. That's what we can call it. So I'm going to take a look at their videos and sort of study that a little bit more. I'll be happy to link that below for any of my needlepoint novices as well. I highly recommend you take advantage of it. I just think it is very relaxing, so much fun, and it just helps me to just, again, downshift and downgrade. I've still continued my no gel manicures. I think I told you a long time ago. I do not intend on doing that ever again. So I think I've wholeheartedly embraced my natural nails. Sadly, I got a bruise under this nail as we were leaving Orlando from Michigan, but it's almost grown out. And so my fun hack is to maybe once a month. Obviously, I file my nails on my own. I'm not great at it. So that's why at least once a month, I like to go to the nail salon and just get a very basic manicure. They cut my cuticles, shape my nails, and do all of that. And then either with my manicurist set, which is that non-toxic gel manicure, it's not really a gel manicure, that I'll do that if I want like a pretty look, either go back to my classic red or a natural pink, which is sort of what I have on now. Yeah, but it just makes me feel so much better. And it's not just sort of no longer doing the non-toxic gel manicures. To me, I feel like I've gained so much of my time back. When I think of how much time I spent in the nail salons every 2 weeks getting my nails done, it was at least 90 minutes. And it's just, you know, I would always say this. I know that time is supposed to be relaxing, or it should be relaxing, but it never felt relaxing to me. I just could not wait to get it done, to be frank. And sometimes there's just also a lot going on in any given nail salon that after a busy day of work, which was when I could carve out the time to go, I feel like the last thing I needed was that sensory overload. It was just a little too much. So I've thoroughly enjoyed the time that I've been given back to do other things that I want to do. I will say I'm a bit sad that I've made zero progress with gardening so far. And part of that is because of this impending move we have. I just hope that by the time we get to the new old house, I'll be able to get something in place. I do have some leftover grow bags that I got here last year that I think I'll take to the house this weekend and plant something in there. I mean, we're at the new house every single day doing something or another. So grow bags are just really easy, sort of canvas bags that you can water, get sun. I had great success growing cucumbers and zucchini out of that last year. And so, yeah, I think I've got to do something. I simply cannot not grow anything this summer. So that's it. So the needlepoint has been lovely, lovely, lovely. Gardening here and there. Funny enough, I checked on the garden in the back. I can't believe that everything that can happen in a winter with snow, ice, sleet, all the rest, freezes, hard freezes, chives just miraculously came back. And in one of the grow bags, I was growing the zucchini and some thyme together because it was some companion gardening. And the entire thing is covered. It's like a bush of fresh thyme. I just don't know how these things can survive and come back, but that's the beauty of nature. So for books I'm reading, so I am listening to books and I'm also reading books. So the book I'm reading on Kindle right now, so it's one like a handheld reading, is called Dogs, Boys, and Other Things I've Cried About. I did show this briefly last week in my video when I was in the hotel. And this is by an author, Isabel Klee, who also happens to be a content creator and a huge animal advocate and she's rescued her dog Simon and has fostered countless amount of dogs, Possibly the most famous one being Tiki. And for any of you who do follow Isabel, you know exactly who I mean. He was her incredibly fearful, shut down foster dog who was nearly euthanized because he wouldn't eat, he wouldn't drink water or anything, coming from the abusive household he was in, which is unfathomable. And she did rehabilitate him, and I mean, I don't know how he could have possibly found a better home than Isabel's, but he did, and he's living a wonderful life with 2 other doggy siblings in Pennsylvania. At any rate, I've always loved following her content, and I pre-ordered that book when I knew it was coming out, if only to support Isabel, because I would support Isabel in any of her endeavors. But it turns out, young Miss Isabel happens to be a New York Times bestseller at this point, so the book is very, very good. So that's been exciting. I'm very, very happy to report that since I about left for Michigan, I'm on my 4th book. I don't know that I read 4 books in all of last year. I can tell you that for sure. I tend to read more personal development and business books when I'm in Orlando because I'm always hard on business mode. But the other book I have on Audible right now is blowing me away, and I love it. Let me get it for you right here. It is called The Calamity Club. Does it? Okay. By Catherine Stockett. And if that name doesn't sound familiar to you, if you ever saw the movie The Help or read the book The Help, then you will know exactly who I'm talking about. This book, from I would say the first 5 words, had me sucked right in. If you are into Audible, the narrators are incredible, probably the best I've ever heard. So it's been a really, really, really great book. And I am on chapter 17 right now. And this was a long one. It's read to you. It is a 27-hour book, and I have 19 hours left to go. It's going to be one of those that I know I'm going to be really sad when it's over. Another one that I read by accident, I started to read by accident. I had heard of a recommendation from another content creator that I follow in the UK about something called The Summer Kitchen, or so I thought. So when I looked for it on Audible, because at this point I was doing a bit of driving, I downloaded the first thing I saw. It turns out it was not the book that she had recommended, but I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed this book immensely, and it was just the happiest accident, and I love it because it introduced me to a new author, and her name is Lisa Wingate. So the book I read, The Summer Kitchen, is not by any means a new book. I think it may have come out in 2011, and then I finished that one and went immediately into another one of hers, and let me take a look to see what that one is, because I always fudge up the title and I want to get it right for you. The other one was called Before We Were Yours, and I'll tell you what, I have always said that when I read fiction, my favorite genre is historical fiction, and by that I mean probably one of my favorite books ever, and that really introduced me to, that's not entirely true, historical fiction nonetheless, is called The Magnificent Lives of Marjorie Post. That book was so brilliantly written, and it was equal parts glamorous and dazzling, and the historical element, of course, truly fascinated me, and it was beautiful. But The Lions of Fifth Avenue was the very first one of historical fiction that I've ever read that I loved. Anyway, it's a genre I love, love, love. I tend to love it when it takes me back to New York, in like 1918 or 1940s and 50s and so on and so forth. And I really, really love those books. Fiona Davis is a favorite author of mine for historical fiction, but the ones by Lisa Wingate are historical fiction, but not at all like that, so I wasn't sure how I would get on with that. They're beautifully, beautifully written books, also beautifully narrated, and she has really strong sibling bond connections in her books, and I don't know, I found that extremely endearing and refreshing. It was nice to read something different. So yeah, I am a voracious reader now in my downtime. So that is another way that I have been embracing slow living. So yes, life was a little chaotic before we left for Michigan, and so I was on the heels or just finished a really, really busy and successful and gratifying wedding and event season. I had my nephew's graduation in South Carolina that I went to and from in a day by car. Just so many balls in the air, and like so many of you and so many women, I just feel like we try to say yes to it all and we try to do it all. And we do our best to prioritize, but something gets skewed along the way. Sometimes we're not always putting ourselves first. And I do my best with that when I'm back in Orlando, but you know, there's ebbs and flows. So I knew that things had to change when I came here to Michigan if I was really to make the most of my time here and the most of this season and the most of this season in life. You know, there is a saying, and I'm not sure how it goes, but it's something to the effect of like, do we work to live or do we live to work? And I've been honestly trying to find the great balance there. I don't consider this work. Me doing YouTube videos and speaking with you, this is actually a very lovely outlet for me to communicate and connect and develop a community, which I think is so important wherever you are, physically or virtually, as it were. So I knew that I needed to implement and change some things once I came here if I was truly going to embrace this entire notion of slow living. And the first thing was how I wanted to change how I work. And so back at home, when I'm in our busy season, I always take Monday off and I don't take meetings on Monday. Reasons for this are because there are many weekends where I've worked entire and full weekends that boast, 14 to 16 hour days, and we all need a day to rest. Those were also a day that I used to get my gel manicures, where I would maybe do grocery shopping, catch up on things in the house, etc. Now I take meetings. I certainly am still working here in Michigan with my clients. I certainly am taking on these meetings every single day, but I do include Monday. I don't have the excuse of, I have my weekends off now, so it's beautiful, but I do truncate my availability some so that I have the time in my day to dedicate to these things that I want to do, like the needlepoint. The daytime hours, like particularly earlier in the day, is when I love to do my nature hikes. I can't quite get nature hikes in Orlando like I get them here, and I tell you, they are second to none here. It's one of my favorite things about living here. So I do that. Of course, I speak with my clients if they need me available after their work hours. I will absolutely do my best to accommodate them. But so I work a little bit less, but more. I have more availability every single day, if that makes sense. So changing the way you work to be able to accommodate the hobbies or the things you want to do that make you feel good and put yourself first is something I would recommend to start to help decompress. I also found that sort of a dividend of slowing down and having a little bit more time on my hands and a little bit more quiet time. So I feel like I don't have as much noise around me, which is also extremely peaceful and extremely grounding. It's just sort of letting me take a wider scope view of personal things, if that makes sense. So I've really also been looking at my financial health. Obviously, we've just made a considerable investment in this new old home, not just with the purchase, but we are embarking on another investment in rehabilitating and renovating this home. So I am taking a look. Obviously, my husband and I have, our money together, but I have my money from my business. I have associates that I need to take care of that I pay consistently. Obviously, that's all in place, but I want to look at the broader scope and see. This is when I tend to to cut back on things. So I've just finished this week looking at all of the subscriptions I have, and either subscriptions on my phone, subscriptions, that I stream, etc., and really started to prioritize which are the ones that I truly, truly need and which are the ones that I really want. And now that I'm doing more analog activities, like, am I even using half of these subscriptions that I've been using. So I really ripped the Band-Aid off of a bunch of these things this week, and it felt really good. And you'd be extremely surprised that when you find $10 here and $22 here and $35 a month here, how much that quickly adds up, not just a month, but when you do the cumulative total over the year, feel really good about that. Number 3, I feel like I have really prioritized saying no. I know there's a lot of chatter about this, or at least that I see going around socially. And you know what? Rightfully so. I think that we need to talk about the importance of saying no. I think that any overachiever, we're inclined to say yes, and say yes often, and especially coming from an industry of hospitality and customer service and client experience and guest service, I am inclined to say yes very often. But there are certain responsibilities that I have, not just to my clients, to my business, to my family, but to myself, that in order to get to all of those and have those touch points, I have to say no to certain things. In other words, I have deadlines for when I need to sort of get these videos up and running to you, and I love it so much. And because of that, I had to say no to something today to do that, if that makes sense. I really wanted to do that, and I will rejoin my husband and my mother-in-law shortly. They're having fun. It probably, when I'm doing my favorite thing, like gardening, a gardening center or something, but I'll get there. And I knew I had to say no. And I tell you what, I know I've said this over and over again, but I love speaking to you so much every single week. But I feel so good when I finish a video, and this is something for me. And so I love doing that. So if I have to say no to something else so that I can be able to say yes to this, I certainly will. The other thing that I have been doing to embrace the slow living is I have started to simplify my life. This goes with everything. This is now a routine. I don't know if many of you have the Aura ring. I've had this now probably for 4 years. I'm on my second ring actually. And there's a certain thing called a chronotype. I'm not sure that I still entirely understand what that is, but it just shows that now it keeps saying, it looks like your chronotype is later, but you have adjusted and you're thriving, or whatever it is. It's funny because here the sun sets and it gets darker so much later, so it doesn't get dark, and we're not even at peak summer yet. That will come, I guess, in next week or so for the summer solstice, but it doesn't get dark. It gets like dusky here at about 10:15 p.m. And that is not at all, even in Florida, how it's used. I think in the summertime it's about 9 o'clock, maybe a little after 9, but it could be 9:30, 9:45, and it looks like a blazing sunset over here. So it was challenging for me when we first got here, because I just can't seem to fall asleep when it's broad daylight out. So anyway, this new structure and this new sort of chronotype or routine, I've gotten used to, but it's really good, and I've been really thriving. As I said, I have been sleeping really well. I've been tending to wake up at the same time. I have just sort of this really systematic routine. I have my hot water with lemon first thing in the morning, then I go on to my greens juice, then I have my mushroom coffee, and then I try to move my body. So I'll either try to do a smaller walk. I don't want to go too far and on a heavy walk just yet because I haven't eaten yet, but at the same time, I don't get very hungry first thing when I wake up. But I definitely move my body, walk around the yard, and look at the garden, even though it is a now defunct garden, but I make my plans, and as woo-woo as it sounds, I love to ground. The grass here is so soft and it's so lovely that I just like to either take my shoes off or rub my hands in it and just stand in it, and it feels really good. It also, even though it gets dark late, it also gets really light out early. So the sun is up and it's pretty bright out at 5:30 in the morning here. So it just feels so invigorating. The other part about simplifying my life is sort of the clothes I wear. So Traverse City is by and large a more casual town, and I'm certain it has its moments and its opportunities for dressing up just like any town or city. It's just that hasn't been my lifestyle here yet. And also, I'm certainly not taking my entire wardrobe from Orlando and bringing it up to Michigan every single time. This may be the hardest thing that I have done to embrace this new lifestyle. And my good friends and anyone who knows me probably can figure this out. But I really very much enjoy clothes, and I really very much enjoy putting outfits together. But I pretty much live off of a capsule wardrobe here. So far, so good. I know it's only been 3 weeks, but it's comfortable and I feel great. And I've been wearing different things, and it's been teaching me on how to mix and match just sort of the basic things I have here. And when you think about it, you pretty much wear the same things at home all the time anyway, with the exception of a few special occasions. So I have been enjoying it. I do crave, I will say, I do crave the opportunity to get dressed up again. That's why being in New York last week and getting dressed up was good for me. It helped me sort of scratch that itch. I'm back here now, living off of my capsule wardrobe and thriving. Thank you very much. Again, I mentioned my finances. I've been looking at that. I've been cleaning it up. I also spend less when I'm here. It's not that there's not as much to do, but again, when I'm taking up these analog activities, it's easy to just kind of not spend money. Although I will say this about needlepoint. Needlepoint, I was joking about this with my girlfriend Tracy, her daughter needlepoint. This is not an inexpensive hobby. I will say that. I think this canvas was $90 just for the canvas, and then you get the thread and the needles and everything. This will keep me busy for a long time. Do not get me worried, but certainly if you're going into needlepoint, just know that certain investments are going to need to be made here and there. And part of my routine is, I mentioned how I move my body shortly after breakfast, is just my fitness routine. I don't belong to gyms. I don't take classes here, although maybe in time I would love to take a yoga class of some sort. But truly, when I have so many nature trails here and hikes where I can literally just walk through the woods, I just take advantage of those moments. I love it. I have the weighted vest here, so I can walk with that. I do want to start a little bit more strength training. I keep saying that. I really have to do that. That's next on the agenda. But literally, I can walk to a favorite trail. It's an easy enough one because it's flat, and part of it is pavement and part of it is dirt, and it's an equal 4-mile loop. And so that one's really easy, and I really can't wait to be full-time into the new house there because I can walk to that trail from my new house. So I love walking. I can walk for hours and hours, days and days. Again, you pop in an audiobook or your favorite music, and I could just go. But I love the fitness routine, and that has been another way that I've really, really simplified my life here in Michigan. So anyway, those are a few of the ways that I have embraced and some of the things I have implemented to just help me live a quieter, more serene sort of existence here. And the benefits of that have been palpable. And like I said, I haven't been here very long at all. But I can tell you that with the changes of just not my diet, we cook a lot here. Oh my gosh, but even though the food is so good here, the food scene is so good. But even with a really, really great food scene, it's really clean food. They're using everything they're growing here. The flavors are so good. The ingredients are fresh. So it feels very much like clean eating. It's just so wonderful. But between that, the fitness routine, the gardening, being outside, all of that, I'm definitely feeling less anxious and stressed. There's no feeling like that in the world. And I know it's working because even though things have been slower in regards to the way I'm doing all of this past week, I've had an unprecedented week in business in my 23 and a half years as a wedding planner. And that is, we booked and onboarded 4 new clients in 2 days. I don't ever remember when that happened. And, for any of you that own your own business or have to, you're relying on your own sales or commission based or whatever, again, there are peaks and valleys, and there's busy seasons and there are slow seasons. I am in a slow season. That's why during slow season, I take advantage of taking, like I said, a look at the financial health and seeing where things need to be budgeted. And so I squirrel away money during the busy months so that I can live comfortably during the slower months, etc. So, and I always used to, back in the day, see that when we would finish a client's wedding, the roster would sort of shorten and shorten. And I used to get really uptight about watching it shorten and shorten. Now I have faith it always balances out. But 4 clients in 2 days, it's been wonderful. And you have to understand also in my business, it's not like these 4 clients are next week. I'm with these clients for the better part of a year, 6 months, 8 months, a year plus. So it's good. One is happening at the end of October, and I'm really excited about it. But I'm excited about all of my endeavors. But even with all of that, I felt invigorated. I was onboarding these clients. It was great. And I had Tracy and Jessica out of town this week, so I was doing everything pretty much myself. But I was invigorated. I was meeting with these clients, and yet I still had time for all of these beautiful things that I wanted to do. And I had not 1 ounce of anxiety or stressful moments. Again, these are the things that literally and figuratively would keep me up at night. But I've had absolutely none of that. I'm also, as I mentioned, sleeping better. This was so problematic for me in the last few years, I cannot tell you. And I know a few of my girlfriends are struggling with it right now. But between, hormone replacement therapy and just all of these things I'm adopting, I'm sleeping really, really great. I used to be grateful if I could get 5 to 6 hours. 7 hours was like peak. I had myself convinced that 7 hours was my max and that I can thrive the best and everything. I literally logged on to my Aura app this morning and I slept 8 hours and 8 minutes last night. And, apropos of nothing. I don't have to take melatonin. I don't have to do all these things. Again, it's a tribute to my functional practitioner and getting my hormones really in order. And of course, doing all the things I can to make sure that I am doing my very best. Another thing with slowing down is that I'm able to be more present. And I honestly can say the same for Mr. Lyons. And it's been really, really nice to see. I think when you're not feeling shot out of a cannon so much anymore, there is just so much more of an opportunity to just sit still and be present. So we've been able to do that together. We've been able to it's part of our routine. Obviously, he's still working. Fortunately or unfortunately, we're very grateful for the business. He's going to have to start traveling back to Orlando every single week. But for now, I have him all to myself. And so every evening we convene and we have our dinner. And now we're watching a new show to him. It's Gilded Age. I'm so excited. I can't believe that man watched Downton Abbey with me, The Crown, and now he's watching The Gilded Age. Tell me that I'm not God's favorite. And I guess finally, in a nutshell, friends, what I can just say is that the biggest takeaway is that I'm just feeling happier. And I'm not just feeling happier for me, I feel like I'm feeling happier for everybody. It's just amazing, I think, what good sleep can do, good living, taking care of yourself, taking care of your people, and all of that, how the dividends of that are just so incredibly rewarding. So we have so much more to do with the house next week. More, I think, general contractor meetings and such. I'll take you along for every bit of it as I do always. Again, sometimes the best videos are just the chitty chat videos like this one. You'll have to let me know what you prefer. Sometimes I like taking you all about town with me and doing all of the things, like we went to New York for a hot minute together last week, and then we came back, and then sometimes I just like having a heart-to-heart with you. So you let me know what you prefer. And if you haven't already, and maybe you've been watching this video or a couple of other videos and you haven't subscribed, I would so much appreciate it if you did. It helps me so much with the algorithm, and it helps me to get this content out to maybe those who could use it and looking for something similar as well. And also, if you would like the video, that does wonderful things for the algorithm and for me as well. It is always my pleasure to share my life and my experiences with you. And I loved doing it with you this week. So I wish you a wonderful week ahead. I don't know where you are in the country. We are embarking on summer. It's still we've had some warm days, but it's chilly over here. But I hope you're having a beautiful summer, some beautiful time off. If slow living is what you're after, or maybe just slower paced living for now, I hope you get what you're looking for. I'm here for you and I'm rooting for you. And I'll see you in next week's video.